Hi, this is the first meeting of our book club for Be Heard, Women Empowering Women. And we have some very powerful women here today. We have Tania, and she had translated my book from English to Spanish, my first book. And Annie, who is narrating it in Spanish for Audible. And Carol, who's my editor. Now, she didn't edit the first book because I had hubris and thought I could do it myself, but found out it's better when somebody else does it. So she did my second book, and I love her. So we're going to talk about that first book, and know that every month will be a different book. Okay, so we'll decide at the end what the book is for next month, and then I will have the author here. Okay, that sound good? All right.
Sounds good.
All right. So let me see. Annie, who do you think would most enjoy this book? Raised by Wolves, Trapped by Demons.
You know, I have been enjoying it myself, but I would say someone who's a victim of domestic violence. I was a victim of child abuse, physical and verbal abuse. Yeah. But I think that, as sad as it is overcome easier than it would, and it's not easy at all, but than it would, than domestic violence is.
Right. For some, I think it depends.
For some, yes, because we do, tend to grow up and move away and start our life. Mm-hmm. And however, it's not as simple when you're a victim of domestic violence. You are stuck. You are stuck. You have nowhere to go, and you feel like you have no help, and there's nothing that you can do, especially if you have children.
Well, yeah, and so all of you know that in the book that my second husband, which I had 2 children with, even though I divorced him, he stalked me, would not let me go. So that was part of the conundrum. It was like I had to go back to him because if I didn't, he would hit me. He didn't hit me when I was with him, but if I tried to leave him, he would. He'd get physical. Right. And the money, no money, he wouldn't pay child support, so I had to go on welfare. It was really extremely hard. So, Tania, let me ask you, of the characters in the book, was there any particular character that you disliked? You probably disliked a couple of them. But was there anyone that you did not like more than the others? Go on.
Well, that's a question.
It's a question. It's hard to say. There are a few of them in there that.
Yeah, it's hard to judge. Also, you're a non-judgmental person. But I will say that as an actress, because I'm an actress as well, and I will say that when we embody the human condition, we cannot judge people just.
Well, I agree with that because I agree. Because I do say I married very damaged men. Like I do say that they were damaged. That I know there's a reason why they were like they were. Carol, how about you? Was there anyone that you disliked more than someone else or got reaction from you? Just didn't have a sound on. Well, while you're getting your sound on.
I grew up in Atlanta. Okay. So my mother my mother was involved in politics. Mm-hmm. And so she worked for the city. So you start mentioning people, and my mother had contact with a lot of these people. And it's almost like it's a cultural mirror. Okay. Yeah. She protected me from. I didn't know a lot of this stuff, but it's a cultural view, and I'm still familiar with the names. Mm-hmm. It was I've never watched the movie The Irishman, And my kids tell me, don't watch it, it's boring.
It's not boring if you grew up there. The Irishman, for those that don't know, is pretty much about Scranton, Pennsylvania, where we grew up, and the mafia
mob,
the mob that were right there, ingrained in our town, and our politics and everything. And everybody knew, and supposedly they say who the guy is that killed Jimmy Hoffa, the union leader, which you take with a grain of salt because it's a movie, Let me ask you this. What surprised you the most in the book? Was there anything that surprised you?
Me?
Any of you?
Me personally, I knew you for 2 years in high school. I had no idea. I had no idea any of this was going on. I really didn't. And you were always my good friend, and you were always my sounding board. And I mean, not that my life was but my life was relatively normal. I mean, yes. Is anybody completely normal? No. I had a hovering overprotective mother, a very quiet father, and but I was an angry person. I took many years of therapy to deal with that, and I didn't know why. So you were my sounding board.
And here I had things going on I never
had more problems than I ever had. Right.
No, I was told what happens here stays here. You're gonna say something, Annie? It looked like you were gonna say something.
I'm my husband's name is Bob. And there's definitely no comparison. None whatsoever. Okay. But every time I read the word Bob, it just gave me chills because I made sure that I didn't go there. I saw my dad abusing my mother. I saw my brothers abusing their wives. My brothers are 8 and 9 years older than me. So, and by the time I was 8, this 16-year-old was already a father and a husband. So I saw him, basically grew up in the same household with him and his wife. And I saw him beating and demeaning his wife and doing the same to his children. So every time I saw the word Bob, I just wanted to change it to
another name.
One of my siblings. Yeah. Like it didn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
he kept saying
some of the narcissistic traits, you can always pin narcissistic traits to almost anyone. And by the way, I am getting my doctorates in counseling. I've read a lot of books in counseling, and I don't think that any book has described it so basic, yet so easy to understand.
Well, thank you.
I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I always feel like I'd rather learn it in the most basic terms than what the words I'm supposed to learn and use.
I think that where I'm thinking you are is like the toxic masculinity thing. Like there's some men that are toxic.
Yes.
And they're the ones we call macho sometimes. The macho gets carried to the extreme because they want to control you. And when they can't control you, it could be verbal abuse, it could be emotional abuse, it could be physical abuse. Getting away from Bob, the one ex-husband, Jack, he actually had a spell on me, right? I married him twice. But I mean, there you go. Tania, what do you think about that with men and getting involved with men that are really not good for you? Have you had any experience or know someone?
Well, I've met, I have had friends in that situation. Yeah. I had to rescue few from those.
Okay.
But I've never been involved in a toxic relationship myself, and not looking for one either.
You're such a lucky girl.
I think it's
very lucky.
think it's not luck. I think it depends on where you are, on an emotional level, how emotionally independent you are, because sometimes your environment, your cultural society, they push you into make the wrong decisions.
Absolutely. How did you get emotionally independent?
I don't want to say that, but it's a process that you have to.
How did you get there so young? Because you don't look that old. So how did you get to that emotional independence? I mean, what was it? Your family?
Well, probably because I had different experiences as a child with people of different ages, and I'm very sensitive. And so I think it's in my nature to kind of follow my intuition when it's about, do I want to share my time with this person or not?
You see the red flags. You see the red flags right away, right? Where when I was young, I just got, you know, the point where I wasn't emotionally mature at 18, 19, 20. So I took a lot of wrong turns, a lot of wrong turns, which, Carol, you married someone young. How old were you when you married Steve?
21.
21.
But it wasn't all, it was never physical.
No.
But he was raised in a crazy house.
Oh.
And I was raised by people who wanted to control my life. I pulled into this marriage with him trying to control my life.
There you go.
It took a lot. I ended up in therapy a couple times, and he would never go. And then when I threatened to divorce him because his situation was so bad growing up, I knew it was, but I didn't realize how much it affected him. Because when I first met him, he was really a sweetheart, and it got to a point where he just wanted to control everything, and I finally had to say that's it. And when I asked him for the divorce, he had a breakdown, and he finally agreed to go for therapy.
There you go.
And we went to a therapist, and the therapist started listening to us, and he said to him, he said, "Can you bring your family in here?" Now, his mother had passed away, and his mother was the real problem. Okay. She had passed away. So
never heard of that.
And so he said, well, I'll ask. And he said, and the therapist said, yes, let's give Carol a break for a while.
Perfect. My counselor, I went through Catholic Social Services. Yeah. So it's a Catholic agency, and they do not believe in divorce. And this was with my second husband. So we weren't married in the Catholic Church. But Paul, his name was, Bob went a couple times. We went for marriage counseling, and he would sit there and not say anything. So then the counselor said, well, let's see you separately. And then after a couple of visits, he said, Marie, he does the same thing when you're not there either. And he said, I'm going to tell you what, you're smart, you're young, you get a divorce and get a new life. And because of him, he gave me the motivation. First of all, I'd gotten very heavy because of eating disorder from being, sometimes when you're abused, you turn to alcohol, drugs, food, whatever, as a coping mechanism. I lost weight. I got a college scholarship because I was a single mother. And that was the best thing that ever happened for me. Now, it still took me years to get rid of that. Years, you know. But now, who's on an iPhone? Are we getting a new person? I don't know. If you're coming in, hit your video so we could see you. Now, I've been told, some people told me when they were reading the book, oh, that's Annie. You're just switching. Okay. They tell me when they read the book, some parts upset them so much they had to put the book down. So Tanya or Annie, let's go in your set.
I did that a couple of times. Yes. You know, because the first time I read your book, I was just scanning down what was I was going to work on. And then I said, okay. But then I read it for the second time and I was like swallowing everything, tasting everything. And there were moments I just say, I cannot believe this, man, because I wanted to punch him.
Who, Bob? Bob, right? Yeah.
Oh my God, it was like in order, you know, the first one and then the second one.
I know.
And when you got to the part when you said that you had to drive your little girl to school and then you discovered that I think it was Bob who put sugar into
Yes.
I couldn't believe it. I said, this is just beyond evil.
Yes.
I grew up with a single mom and two siblings. Mm-hmm. And I know how hard it is for a woman to do everything on her own. So I was so upset. And then I said, okay, this is good because other people will, you know, get encouragement from her experience. So I have to keep working on the book.
Yeah. How about you? Annie, did you have to put it down or did you feel some parts were like, oh boy, I gotta take a break? Oh, your audio's off, babe. That's okay.
Okay. I think with me, because I am more of a listener than like I can understand more, get more out of it when I'm listening to it than when I'm reading it. Mm-hmm. So I didn't realize all the stuff that I was reading until I started listening to my voice. And then I didn't like the sound of my own voice because, you know, I'm going through all the chapters and editing, and just an hour ago, I was like, I need a break from me. Like, I cannot believe
listen to what you're saying, right?
Yeah. Like, I don't even want to listen to my own thoughts.
Do you see what Annie's saying? Annie is saying, you know, when we read a book, we read a book. And it's like you're listening to the story, but she is translating it and listening to her own voice actually speak the words. All right. So actually speaking the words makes it even harder. Right. I know. And then on that note, I'll say too that people that don't know me, they're really surprised because they know me now. But people that knew me before too, they're like, Carol, it's like we never knew that you went through a childhood like that. We just thought you were like everybody else, you know. Yeah. But that's a good point about saying the words out loud. And now I use some quotes in the book, and then there's things I said. Was there any quote that stood out for you or that you liked? Because I quoted quite a few people, I think. Sorry if you didn't.
It was everything. It was everything. I was surprised. I'm always surprised when I read quotes. I'm reading a book right now that has a lot of quotes in it. Hold on.
Do you like the fact, you see, I did that on purpose because for myself, I like that. Like, in other words, I'd have a chapter and then I might have a quote at the beginning or the end, but it might be by a famous poet or book writer themselves. But a lot of things, like I wrote about, now remind me her name. She wrote The Handmaid's Tale.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Margaret
Atwood.
Yeah, I have one of her quotes, and it's a long one, but she said, when I ask women what they fear from men, no, wait, start over. When I ask men what they fear from women, they tell me, oh, we're afraid to laugh at us. And when I ask women why they're afraid of men, they say, we're afraid they'll kill us.
I remember
that is kind of true. And the thing that's hitting my nerves lately is all these backwards things that are happening in politics and like the Supreme Court and things that are saying Florida's terrible. And it's like they made gay marriage legal, and now they're trying to take that away. They had women decide when they wanted to get an abortion or whether they didn't. They took that away. That's been around since the 60s, right? And then the blacks, they're taking things, and Hispanics. And I just feel like if you're a woman or a person of color or a gay person, you're in trouble. I really do believe that. And so I think people need to write books or speak or do act in things that are reactionary, revolutionary, because we have to have a voice. Do you guys feel any of that in the tension of, now, first of all, Tanya's in Annie's in Puerto Rico, right? And Tanya, you're in Nicaragua, so I don't know what it's like there, but I'm sure women aren't thought of as superior there either in your culture. Am I wrong?
Well, yes, there are a lot of domestic violence here. I don't really know the statistics right now, but yeah, it's
we have it there too.
Is a problem.
Okay.
But again, it comes from both sides, because here we have a lot of toxic masculinity as toxic feminism. So I believe there has to be a balance, and again, it has to start with each person. You know, you have to treat others the way you want it to be treated, regardless of your gender or
exactly right,
whatever identity you have.
Do you have any last thoughts, Annie? We're going to be running out of time soon. These are short little things.
Tania brought a big like great point that I have an issue. I believe in equality, but I have an issue when we, the minority, whether it's the women, the Hispanics, the whatever you want to call yourself, when you want to call yourself, want to go above others and feel superior and demean others. And I think we do. I agree with Tania. We do need a balance.
Absolutely. Carol, how about you? Any last words or comments, observations?
If you read my Facebook post, you know I'm a very political person. I grew up in a Republican household, and I am the biggest liberal you've ever met.
Just the opposite.
Okay. It's just the way it is. So I picked up a book. We were on vacation. We were at a national site called Fort Necessity in southwestern Pennsylvania. I picked up a book. It's called The Lies My Teacher Told Me.
Huh?
And that's 300 pages thick. It goes through American history and they didn't exactly tell lies. It's just omission. It's omission and lies as to what this whole country was all about. And I'm
now let's I don't want to get into politics, but let's just
right now I'm on the Vietnam War. So it tells you, my God, I can't believe the stuff I'm reading. But
let me just say this.
At some discuss that stuff.
Yeah, but we're not going to talk about the politics. What I really want to say, and for anybody that's going to read Raised by Wolves, Trapped by Demons, do you think my message gets through of overcoming obstacles, no matter what they are, to become the person you should be?
Absolutely. And I think you did it at a time when it was difficult for women to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
You girls, did you feel that?
You're a pioneer for the rest of us.
Oh, thank you, Anne. Tanya, did you get a theme of that? Empowerment.
I think you delivered the message beautifully, because you wrote the book in a conversational kind of way, and I also believe that in that message you express that we are a work in progress.
Yes.
And that's important to say, because it's not like a journey that you get to an end. It's a never ending story. I mean, you evolving and developing yourself, your skills, and that's something.
And there was a point in the book where I said, I knew I had to love myself first, because I kept taking men back in my life and forgiving them and forgiving them. And if I was ever going to find real love the way it should be, which is a balance, okay, give and take, I had to love myself first. Did you feel that theme?
Yeah. And that's a difficult thing to deal with. That's a difficult thing to do. My life changed when I decided, and this may sound selfish, I decided that I was number one.
No, it's not selfish.
Okay? I was number one. My children were number two. My husband was number 2 and 3 combined. My husband was number 4, and my parents were number 5 and 6. Okay. And once I did that, and I said to all of them, I will do anything, absolutely anything for you, unless what you're doing is hurting me physically or emotionally.
Right.
Once I made that statement, my life changed completely.
So now let's go, because we're going to wrap up soon. So let's say we go through this book, and some parts you had to put the book down, etc. So now when you get to the final chapter, what do you think people will get out of this book? Anybody?
Resilience.
Okay, one word, resilience. Annie, what do you think people will get out of this book?
Well, and I agree with her word, and I'm going to be completely honest because I'm still working on the book.
I understand. Well, yeah, you didn't get through it all. Okay, yeah.
But I have not read the last chapter. But resilience is definitely one thing, because we've all, even if we haven't been victims of domestic violence, like because we were not in a marriage, or because we didn't live with that partner, doesn't mean that we weren't victim at some point in a relationship. Especially, I think, in the Latin culture, the Spanish, the Hispanics, the Italians, the French, it's a very male dominated culture, and they get taught that all of this behavior is okay by men, just not acceptable for women to do.
So you have to fight for your rights. Yeah.
Right. So I kept going back to, wow, this is exactly what I lived through when I was dating so-and-so. And I went through that when I was dating so-and-so. And, after living 3 months.
You related to a lot. Good.
And this is so good, because in my case, that's what I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to empower others.
Good.
And empower women.
That's the idea.
And do more.
That's it. And Tania, how about you? I'm going to ask Tania because we're going to run out of time. Did you get a certain theme or an idea that you would say this book is about?
Mary, I think you covered so many different messages and experiences here that, depending on who reads it, they will pick up whatever message will resonate with them.
But there is something for everybody.
It could be, for example, and how to control their ways, or maybe not say they control their ways, but how to control their anxiety. Or the
coping
way they hurt themselves, and not to fall into many different addictions, for example, or someone who's in an addiction and wants to know how to get out from there.
Right.
Seek out for help. So I think it depends on who reads the book.
Yeah, there's something for everybody, because I went through so many things. It's amazing. And I have a podcast, and it is also called Be Heard, Women Empowering Women. And I've had at least a dozen guest speakers, psychologists, authors, all women. I had one woman come on and talk about self-harm and how to get over suicide that they experience from somebody else, and also their own thoughts of suicide. There's a lot of different topics, so they could check that out too. And that's on anywhere you get your podcast. Okay. What else? I think that's it. So next month, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send everybody an email with the books. And if you see a book that you like, let me know. All right. And we'll talk some more. And Tania, do you have my phone number?
No, I do not.
And Annie, you don't either, right? Can you call me?
I actually do. You have.
Yeah, but can you call, like, do you have to use WhatsApp? Like, if I want to talk to you on the phone, how would I talk to you?
Are you asking me or?
I'm asking Tanya, yes.
Yeah, I use WhatsApp, so if you call me to my WhatsApp, yeah, I can.
WhatsApp, okay. Now, you're usually in the United States, right, Annie?
Yes, I still have WhatsApp, but yes, I'm usually in the States.
Okay, so we're gonna make sure we have all our information, because I'm gonna be doing more work with both of you, because you're superb translators and narrators, and I want everybody that sees this to know that. So we're gonna end this book. We talked about was my memoir, and it was Raised by Wolves, the parents, Trapped by Demons, the men. And it is on Audible, and it is in Spanish.